The Department of Homeland Security has put out a new bulletin. It's kind of funny. This was issued right about the time I put out my trailer for 2,000 Mules. And when I first read this, I'm like, is there any connection? Because you'll see why I'm making that reference in a moment. It's called Summary of Terrorism Threat to the U.S. Homeland. And of course, this is it's a laughable document because part of it is just the sheer stupidity of its composition, but it's also chilling. It's chilling because clearly they're trying to describe with a very broad brush the potential domestic terrorist group. And as I read this, I'm like, I almost read it as if it's pointing at me. Let me read just a line or two from here. It talks about key factors contributing to the current heightened threat environment. The first one, the proliferation of false or misleading narratives. So, by and large, if you don't go along with the Biden administration's narratives, if they're able to describe your narrative as false or misleading, which, by the way, is always what one political party says about the other. The whole point about a vigorous debate between two political parties is each party accuses the other of making false and misleading statements. And so anyway, the proliferation of false or misleading narratives which sow discord, as if to say that disagreement is not an inherent part of the democratic process or undermine public trust in U.S. government institutions. Well, let me say right out, I have virtually no trust in U.S. government institutions. They have proven themselves, they have earned my distrust, let's put it that way. And then let's look at for example, there's widespread online proliferation of false or misleading narratives regarding unsubstantiated widespread election fraud and COVID-19. Well, I do want to note at this point that with regard to my trailer for 2,000 Mules, as far as I'm aware, there is not a single challenge. There's not a single fact check that goes, oh, that video that Dinesh put out is what do they say? Unsubstantiated. This is video that Dinesh took himself, or this is video that Dinesh somehow got in the middle of the night. Who knows where he got? No. This, I want to emphasize, the video in my trailer is official surveillance footage that is taken by the states themselves. The states themselves have it. And so there's no question about the authenticity of the footage. But what I find really disgusting here is the effort to portray legitimate, vigorous democratic debate, the uncovering of new information and new facts as somehow not only false, it's not false, but they're trying to describe it as false, and they're trying to describe the people who uncover this information, often at considerable effort, as somehow being dangerous to the state. The underlying assumption here, and this assumption pervades the Biden administration, is that America is a one-party state. And a one-party state requires a party line. The party line is basically whatever Big Brother says. If you disagree with the party line, you're putting out a false narrative. You're sowing discord. You're an enemy of the state. Now, I was on Fox News last night, and a second item closely related just came out, and that's the CIA. Newly declassified documents reveal the CIA has been conducting massive surveillance programs capturing the private information of Americans. Wait, what? The CIA is not supposed to be operating in the United States at all. The CIA is a foreign intelligence agency. Let's think of the distinction between the FBI and the CIA. The FBI is the domestic police agency, or the top police agency of the U.S. government. The CIA's job is foreign spying, foreign surveillance. Now, admittedly, if you've got, for example, a spy from China who's working with a U.S. citizen, I'm assuming that connection legitimizes the CIA to look at that particular citizen. But this mass surveillance of Americans seems to me a complete abuse of authority by the CIA. What's amazing is the degree to which these institutions have become unaccountable. Talk about public trust in institutions. I have no trust in the CIA. I think Republicans who have traditionally been very deferential to the CIA, oh, it's the CIA, we've all got to be behind it. Nonsense. This agency needs to be cleaned up from top to bottom. It needs to be investigated itself. If necessary, it needs to be shut down. And I say shut down because sometimes in institutions, the rot is so deep, it's so pervasive, that any kind of cosmetic reform doesn't really do the trick. You've got to sort of clean out the Augean stable. rebels. You got to fumigate the place. You got to fire everybody. You got to start rebuilding from the ground up if you need to rebuild at all. So here we see with Biden a disturbing tendency to mobilize, to corrupt and mobilize police agencies of government, the FBI, the CIA, and so on, deploy them not against enemies of the country, but against citizens of the United States. It's almost true to say, it's not really a wild exaggeration to say what the Biden administration is doing, and I made this point on Fox last night, is they are turning aliens into citizens, or to put it differently, giving aliens many of the same privileges and prerogatives of citizens, and they're turning citizens into aliens. So that would legitimize the CIA, for example, spying on Americans. You treat Americans as if they're foreign invaders, and you apply a hostile glance, if you will, or suspicious glance to them. This is, if you voted for it, you should really be having your head examined. This is your Biden administration.